Hi, Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper, back with another unboxing. In fact, I've got two for you. These are kind of interesting. One is from a lady that specifically said she wanted me to film an unboxing, and that actually happens quite a few times when I'm buying collections from family. One is that she wanted to kind of see the history kind of, explained and talked about, and maybe just also to have that memory of what she gave me from her loved one. The other one is just a really small package. I'll probably start with that one first. And I wanted to unbox that publicly here just to kind of show you that sometimes what I'm buying are very, very small collections. Sometimes I like to, put on here 50 pounds of scout patches and it's boxes, full of stuff. But sometimes it's just one scout who was in scouting for, whatever, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, went to some events, and now, it basically all fits in one little padded mailer. It's got a little jingle to it because there's probably some Cub Scout belt loops in there. So hold on, I'm going to cut these boxes open and show you what we've got. Okay, as I said, I'll start with this small padded mailer. And so let me just kind of slide the items out and show you literally, this is how I get these collections often. It's just stuffed in here. And, again, someone who did the program, and for whatever reason, I think this was the guy's mom, said, "Hey, got my son's stuff. He doesn't want it. Would you be interested?" And usually, what I tell people, and you've seen this in other unboxings, is yes, I love to help you recycle your scouting memorabilia. So sometimes when I get stuff that's super modern, like this Weeblos hat, which literally is like the current style, this is real easy because I still am connected to scouting units at my church, and so I can make sure that something like this gets donated back to a Cub Scout pack, and some Weeblos could wear that. Then send something like this. Here's an Order of the Arrow handbook from 2015. So again, this isn't even that old. This stuff is pretty new. Now, what I liked about this collection is that it's actually from South Carolina, and that's where I grew up. Although I live in Charlotte, North Carolina now, and so it has some items from, for example, Kula Lodge, which is the OA Lodge there. Camp Old Indian, which is a camp that I've been to many times for OA events. That's in the upstate of South Carolina. And so many of these district patches, and this is kind of what the bread and butter of someone's experience in scouting is, going to camporees and doing the popcorn sales and, you know, Cub Day Camp and all this kind of stuff. So this is again, 2010, went to a scout camp at Camp Old Indian. Was a patrol leader, was a, tenderfoot scout, all that stuff. This is kind of some stuff that, believe it or not, I do buy these kinds of collections all the time because I talk about it. This goal of recycling scouting memorabilia, it doesn't end just because it's not some fantastic collection from the 50s, the 40s, whatever. This is the kind of stuff that I sometimes get. And so, because I think this is kind of cool. This is national leadership training at Camp Old Indian. So I'm sure that in my circle of friends who are in this hobby, I'm going to know someone who would like to have this for their collection. Again, a Weeblos neckerchief, a standard troop neckerchief with this logo. That's probably a little bit more of just a donation type thing because there's probably not anybody that I know that's really chomping at the bit to get them. But again, just some cool patches from that time period. These are things that were maybe 10 years old, which kind of matches up to what she told me in our communication. But then again, look at that. Like, that's a cool design, a special issue there from Camp Old Indian. They probably sold that in the Camp Trading Post about 10 years ago, but it's a patch that I haven't seen. But again, I don't collect the modern stuff from South Carolina, but I do have friends that do. And so these are the kind of things that I can trade and I can kind of get them back into someone else's collection. So, all right, I've got another cool collection for you. Let me clean this up and I'll pull out the next box. Okay, this next collection is very different. This came from a daughter whose father passed away, and she actually wrote me a nice little note here that I want to share with you because, again, this kind of shows that a lot of times what I'm trying to do is take someone's loved one's belongings and make sure that they have a new home and that they get appreciated. Dear Jason, enclosed is the Boy Scout memorabilia of my father. He loved scouting, was a junior troop leader as a teen in Queens, New York, a troop leader in the Bronx of the 1960s, then in Westchester County, New York in the 70s and 80s. I last remember an Explorer Troop meeting at our home. My siblings and I, I'm happy to know that there will find a new home. Thanks. So this is the collection. It'll be very different from the one that we just saw. So let's take a look. Everything was packed with care. There's a lot of items in here that have, like this is sort of sealed up. I'm gonna have to make a knife to pop open this. This is, of course, his what I would call a Scoutmaster hat, a Smokey the Bear hat that many of you will recognize. So this is something that he would have worn. And so let's just see. This is a Stetson Scoutmaster hat. Very cool. And it's got all of the Boy Scout markings in here, including his name on this little patch right there. And what size is it? I'm not sure. I'm sure if I looked around enough, I could find a size for that hat. But that is a beautiful Scoutmaster hat. It doesn't have any holes or anything in it. And probably you're aware that all this can be sort of flattened out with the hat press. So that's a cool item that I'm sure a modern Scoutmaster would love to have. And I've done that at camp before. Bring those type things and then make sure that they get worn by a modern Scoutmaster. That's pretty throwback, so they kind of think that's pretty cool to wear. Well, we got some plaques in here. I can feel how heavy that is. And then there's a little bag of patches and some belts and some neckerchiefs. Oh, and a cool flag. I love flags. Let's take a look at the flag in a second. Maybe we'll save that for last. Okay, that is okay. So said there was some heavy stuff in here. Let's get to these guys. So I have gotten similar little statues. I guess I'm not necessarily call them a trophy, and they're probably not a statue either, but this is the Tate McKenzie design. You will see this same little statue out in front of my own local council here. The Mecklenburg County Council has a statue like that, and a lot of Boy Scout offices have that sort of famous one here. And this was a district commissioner award. And then this is another similar version. I've gotten a lot of these over the years. This one will tighten it up if I spin it enough. But this is also here for service to the troop, I think. It's a little hard to read that one. It's got a little bit of oxidation on it. And then some cool belts. You don't see these anymore. This is a Boy Scouts of America belt. Really, this is kind of like a leader dress belt. I do wear these sometimes, and this is a nice size 40. So this can definitely be used by someone today. But it has this really cool little belt buckle, how it attaches there. They made these also for jamborees, and I've got a lot of them from, like, say, the 73 jamboree, the 69 jamboree. But both of these are just simple scouting ones. And then here's another one too. Again, you can see that. And this one he wore quite a bit because I see a little bit of wear and tear on it. Not as much the other one. Okay, got some heavy plaque type items here. You can see this one here, 34 years in scouting, and this is from PAC. And then this one, in fact, this one that was on there. I need to make sure that gets back connected. And then again here, commissioner with a really cool Tate McKenzie there. And this one, of course, is meant to be a wall hanger, so it's got the hook there. But that's a really nice looking plaque. Then there's something in here. Let's see what this guy is. Get my, yeah, got it up. All right. So this is a certificate. Let's see if there's some more. Yeah, there's like several certificates in here, including his, I think that's his Scoutmaster key. And then there's some certificates here. 3-year training program, Scout Leaders Warrant, Certificate Appreciation from the Greater New York Council, Great Wikipedia District Investment Company. That's cool. So several different, here's a newspaper clipping, and then a little wooden, a sort of homemade wooden cutout. Back before we had these laser engravers and stuff, I've seen a lot of similar items made now for district banquets, but that was before all that. And again, here's another little one right here from his district with the little fleur-de-lis. That's pretty cool. Couple of neckerchiefs. I'm not sure if this one has any identifying information as far as where it happens from. Nope. So I get these in collections a lot. You know, this was a local thing. If we were around back in the 60s in that district, we would know what this plaid neckerchief stood for. Probably adult leader training or something like that, something that they would have been involved with. And then here's a cool 34 no, 18th West Point Camporee. So you probably know this if you're involved in scouting, is that for many, many years, decades and decades, they've held a yearly camporee at West Point, which was in New York, which, no surprise he would have gone to. And there's a little baggie of patches here we can take a look at. The kind of patches that you would wear in your uniform, right? So like a whole bunch of red troop numbers, a camporee patch. These would have been on the uniform. So like, New York City, the Bronx. She mentioned that in her note, a bunch of the ones from the Bronx. And then Washington Irving, I believe that's another New York council. Maybe that's when he moved. He was involved in that. And then Westchester Putnam, she mentioned that, a couple of those. So these are red and white strips. These are the ones from the 1960s before they went to the modern council shoulder patches. And then we already saw a lot of evidence of him being a district commissioner. Now, funny enough, some of you will know what this is, but just for fun, let's throw it out there. Greater New York Council, red with a very, very dark green background. It's a mystery. Except it's not, because this is a Girl Scout patch. This is the equivalent of this, but on a Girl Scout uniform. Some people in scouting are like, oh, I found something really unusual. It's really interesting. Well, actually, no, it's a Girl Scout patch. It's all good. So just a few more. Again, these are things that would go on your uniform. Position patches, knots, training knots. Here's pins, like year pins, things like that. Let's take a look at this cool flag. So I wouldn't call it a collection of flags. A collection implies that you have a checklist and there's things you're looking for, you're trying to get. In collections I have purchased, I have gotten plenty of flags, and some of them I have decided to hold on to because I think they're especially unique. So I don't have a collection of flags necessarily, but let's see what this one is. It's got this beautiful trim on it. It's really big. I'm going to like stand up to show this to you guys. Oh my gosh. All right. Post 26, the Knights of Columbus in Peekskill, New York. Dun dun. This is huge. I mean, I'm stretching this all the way out. That is a really, really cool flag. So, of course, this is from an Explorer post, which she mentioned in her notes. And let me just tell you that this design, we call this the Rocket Circle. I don't call it that. That's what other people named it. But essentially, this is the Explorer symbol of the 1960s. In the 1950s, they had that compass anchor wings that was kind of a blend of Sea Scouts and exploring and Air Scouts and all that. This is different. This is when the exploring program moves away from having an advancement program. And so it's a little different. She mentioned having an explorer meeting at her house, which is kind of neat. I don't know what the trim stands for. I'm just being honest. I'm not sure if that meant something in terms of their explorer post, maybe won some, I don't want to say won some award, but some sort, I don't know. But I don't often see flags this big. This is a much bigger flag. And then also with this trim, I might have to ask a friend to find out what's the story on that. Why does it look different? But ironically, this is the kind of flag that I can keep in my collection because I really do collect senior scouting, which is that high school age program. It began as like Air Scouts and Sea Scouts and all those original explorers. And then today we would look at it and probably call it more venturing scouts. That's more the high school age program with the dark green shirts that scouts can be a part of. So this was the 1960s version of that. Good old explorers. This explorer term gets reused a lot in scouting history if you go back in the books. So again, what I was trying to do today was unbox what I would call more of a normal or an ordinary collection that I buy often from people who reach out to me on my website. No, there were not rare, valuable things that nobody's ever seen from the 30s, the 40s, or whatever. This was just kind of the bread and butter of what I get week after week. And so, in fact, if you go to my website, scoutpatchcollectors.com, I have a little link there for my mission and the vision of my business. And this fits right in with it, trying to recycle scouting memorabilia so that I can make sure that it stays in the hands of scouting collectors and it gets preserved. Both of these situations, there was a family member who, in one case, probably wasn't interested with the son, and another, the father who had passed, and the family wanted to make sure that someone who cared about it and could, sort of appreciate it would get a hold of it. So, anyways, that's kind of what I'm doing. Thanks very much for watching. If you have a collection like this, whether it's yours or that of a loved one, please reach out to me. All my contact information is on my website. Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper.